Hi, everyone. Welcome back to coffee number 5. And today I was thinking about the beauty industry. It's the beauty industry and the fashion industry is what I know, what I thought, and I think was one of the industries that they were most affected by the introduction of the digital world, because the trends starting to happen so fast that bloggers and YouTubers, they start reporting. So everything started moving at a pace that it wasn't normal for the industry. So I think it changed the industry so much. Today, I have the honor to have here Jennifer Norman. Thank God, I can pronounce that. I think I did okay. Hi, Jennifer.
I'm so glad I have one of those easy to pronounce names. Yes, you did, Lara. It's so great to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited about this conversation. You have an incredible marketing background working with these beauty industries. And we were talking off the show about the challenges and the evolution of marketing over the years, not only about the body and the image, but also about the loopholes that we need to go through to be able to use our marketing tools.
It's so true. You know, Lara, I have been in the beauty industry for pretty much my entire career. So this is, going on about 25 years, believe it or not. And boy, when I started working in the industry, it was quite different. And it's so interesting to see the evolution over time of, how women have been portrayed in the media and what was expected of them in terms of their looks and their styles and what was considered aspirational. And then, those influences on women and, what it really kind of meant to them to kind of show up in the world the way that they wanted to or the way that they were expected to. So, back then when I first started in the industry, it was all about the supermodel. It was all about being super tall, rail thin. It's kind of like, can you squeeze yourself in at 6 foot tall into a size 2? Kate Moss famously said, there's nothing that I could eat that feels as good as skinny looks to me. And, that of course I'm paraphrasing, but it was very controversial at the time. And I think that over time, there has been this undercurrent of people recognizing, gosh, this isn't really healthy for me. Look what it's doing to me. It's causing mental health issues.
Not only about that. I mean, I come from the other side. I was always overweight, and there was no way that I would be skinny. And that I come from Argentina, and back then I had to use men's clothing because I couldn't buy women's clothing. They didn't have a tall and big. No, and I wasn't like a size 20 something. I was a size like 16. It wasn't like crazy, but I had to dress with men's clothes.
And so I can only imagine what that impacted you, like when you were growing up, feeling kind of left out of being able to opt into certain fashion or.
Absolutely. And I'm mostly I'm fashion obsessed. And I love fashion and it's my industry, and I wasn't able to fit the part or the role.
Yeah. And so it's really fascinating that over time, to your point, the digitalization of, the universe, the onslaught of the internet and YouTube and whatnot, finally gave the power back to the individual, to the every person, rather than to mainstream media or bigger brands, should I say. Of course, they still have power and influence because there's so much budget there in order to be able to put out, what they would wish. But, as we started seeing these beautiful girls that were, not afraid to show their skin. God forbid anybody felt comfortable going out without some makeup on, in the past. But here they were doing before and afters and makeup tutorials and showing themselves with their bare skin. And it caused a revolution. It really did, as well as I have to hand it to the brand Dove being, more on the big beauty side for really, being the company, the brands that stuck to their guns in terms of real beauty, their campaign for real beauty, and really kind of, pulling back the veil on the beauty industry and what the retouching is all about, and being the first to really cast real women in with real bodies in their campaigns. And so I really think that it's been a long journey. I mean, those were, things that happened back in the, early 2000s. It's been 20 something.
I have a question for you, because I feel like all this digitalization that you mentioned is has created like a rush for the companies just to listen to the people and what they need, and they're trying to rush things and to create new products for addressing those needs.
Yeah, I will say that because I was working for big companies at the time, I remember, at first we kind of ignored it, and we were like, okay, well, let's keep it in the back burner. We'll, pay attention to it. But boy, a lot of big companies are very slow to adopt new technologies because that's just not their forte. And so it was kind of like the wild, wild west. It still is to a certain degree in terms of digital media, but, it took a really long time. And it was, the individual, getting on social media and just experimenting and not being afraid to put themselves out there, hence comes the whole influencer boom of, just, regular people doing their thing and developing this following of of masses.
My question is, do you think that this rush to fulfill the needs of the audience is affecting the quality of the products that they are being delivered?
Well, what I think that is more beautiful than anything is that there are a lot of smaller indie brands that are cropping up. And I think that that's probably the more interesting part of the evolution of beauty and the digitalization. It's that, the younger entrepreneurs or the newer people who may have, worked just like myself, for other kinds of companies or maybe other industries, are recognizing that they can have a business and they can have a better quality of life by having a digital brand. And I think that, it took the bigger companies a bit longer, but I think that, ColourPop is probably the best example of a company that just was so nimble and was really kind of born and bred out of like social media and fast paced kind of, they essentially brought everything in house. Their photography, even the packaging is done under one roof, all of the colors and whatnot. And so they're able to like come up with a product one week and get it on get it online the following week, which would have been unheard of for a larger companies. And so I think that, the speed, the nimbleness, the ability to take risks is really still something that a lot of these indie beauty brands are much better at.
Well, but still ColourPop is a company who has a budget behind it. And they can afford to have it in-house because, and now we're going to go to your own journey of having your own brand. And it's completely different budgets, different timings. What were your challenges of starting a brand?
Totally different. When I started my brand, it was something that I had been thinking of for a very long time. And the time was never quite right. I wasn't ready to take that whole plunge and just go out on my own. And then finally, I really realized that, if I really wanted to be behind a purpose-driven company, a purpose-driven brand, do things in the way that I feel is ethical, is good for the consumer, is good for the planet. I really wasn't finding that in a lot of the companies that I was consulting with in the past or working for. And it was a lot harder to change corporate culture from within. And so I said, you know what, it got to that tipping point where I said, I really think it's time for me to start on my own and do something that is completely just founded upon my values and what I think is right for the beauty industry. And so in 2019, quit my job, decided to start the human beauty movement. And the idea behind the human beauty movement, I named it such because I didn't want it to seem like a traditional company. I wanted it to seem more like a journey and a movement, and something that really stood for the idea of that beauty evolution within all of us as human beings, whether you're a woman or a man, or whether it doesn't matter what race you are, what your color of skin tone is. It doesn't matter what your age is, what your body type is, and who you love. I really wanted to think about myself not as a feminist, or other people not, as a misogynist, but as a humanist, and help to lift all people up and give them that.
I love that you say that, because I have an issue lately. I'm not a boss babe. I'm not a woman entrepreneur. I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman. Business has no age, no color, no race, no gender. So we are in business, and that's something that I've been dealing lately, but that I feel like instead of coming together, we are separating.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was finding with a lot of the, there are, wonderful organizations and wonderful people with really good intentions. But I think sometimes when you think about, separating out, individual from individual, then you create these silos and you create us versus them. And so rather than, and I understand, because there's still a long way for us to, as women, to gain equality and, a lot of the things in order to get to this place where people do feel like we are one whole community. I just wonder about the way that it's done sometimes. And so my way is to always start with an intention of love, no matter who you are, no matter if you're a woman or a man, like I said, and really think of everybody as humans, because we all have a journey. We all have a story to tell. And
let's talk a little more about your brand, because I'm fascinated. Something also that we were discussing, because we both have experience working in the marketing industry for CBD, and it's challenging. It's really challenging.
Yes. I came about CBD actually through some trial and error and learnings with my son, who suffers from seizures. He actually has a number of different ailments, but one of them is seizures. And of course, there was just like so much information on how CBD in particular, or cannabis itself, could be helpful for that. And so I early on did a deep dive and learned all about the different cannabinoids and the benefits, not only to, the neuro system, but just like overall, and the fact that our skin has, these endocannabinoid receptors. And I was like, if I'm going to launch a product, the first product that I'm going to launch is going to have CBD in it, no question. And so, of course, I go in as, a single entrepreneur that, of course, has no experience in CBD before. And, I knew that there were restrictions. There were definitely merchant bankers that I could work with, certain platforms, but I wasn't aware of how stringent the advertising could be, and some of the other issues that you come across. And so you get flagged, you get taken down, you get banned, you get all of these things, even though it's legal. I live in California, where cannabis consumption is legal, but not every state is. We're pretty much almost getting there, right? But until Facebook and Google will allow it within their policies, it's been a interesting road learning how to market CBD products.
Yeah, but also you had, as a first-time entrepreneur, you not only had to deal with the CBD, you also had to deal with creating a brand, working with chemists. How do you decide this is what I want to do? Did you do market research? How did you came up that there was a need for this product?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think that the traditional way of going to market is, do a whole lot of market research, find out what the consumer needs are, look where the need gaps are, develop your your strategy, develop your pipeline, come up with a financial plan. Like I did all of those things rather quickly because I've done it over and over again. I can almost do it in my sleep. And I've come up with so many different concepts for various brands and products and, you know, those sorts of things. So I did have a number of different ideas kind of brewing in the back of my head. And so when it came to, you know, launching my first brand, I knew because of the times that we're in that I wanted it to feel like Zen in a bottle. I felt like everybody is just so stressed and really kind of burning the you know the handle at multiple ends and feeling like, you know, the idea of self-love and self-pampering can be that conduit of calm. And so that's why when I started coming out with the products, and CBD is a perfect, you know, ingredient to kind of leverage for that sense of calm or that sense of, you know, spirituality or kind of diving within. And, you know, and because of, you know, the fact that it helps to bring homeostasis to the body physically. So for me, the idea really kind of sprung up organically. I knew I wanted to source clean products. My company itself is a B Corporation, it's a certified B Corp. And so there are certain criteria and policies that I have in place that I want to make sure that I'm abiding by to, you know, make sure that, you know, whoever I'm working with from a formula perspective or packaging or, you know, you name it, everybody that I'm working with, I really want to make sure that they're good companies that are doing right by their employees, as well as, you know, with the products that they're creating, so that I create this ecosystem of good, if you will. So for me, you know, it was a little bit of a longer journey. It was a bit harder than, you know, just kind of, you know, what usually people will do is just go to the internet and find the cheapest thing that they can find, or they'll find a private label and put a brand on it. I didn't want to do that at all. I wanted everything to be very mindful and custom and very intentional. So luckily, you know, I was able to do it and do it in a way that I felt wasn't glutting the market with a whole lot of stuff. So, you know, I launched
what are you concerned about? Is this going to work? Are you going to have a market for this, or you were sure that this was it?
I never doubted. And that's part of being an entrepreneur, that you cannot doubt yourself. You know, I strongly believe that, you know, even with COVID, because of course, launching right before COVID, you know, it's like, I knew that number one, I wanted to self-fund. I knew that that was the right way because I didn't want to be beholden to anybody else for financials. And because I find that that leads to a lot of dysfunctional decision-making. And I wanted to do things at my own pace, in my own way, and make sure that I took the time that I needed to make things right, to make things as good quality as I possibly could. And so, yeah, there were a lot of decisions that I made, which kind of run counterculture to the, you know, launch, get sold, make a multiple. You know, that's really not my end game. It's really to, you know, just, I want to be an inspiration, number one, within the beauty industry for how it can be done, for how, you know, messaging can be done without creating, you know, like this manic consumerism, if you will, that it can be done in a kind way that causes people to really reflect on their beauty within and feel that everything that we put on our skin, everything that we wear, it's all for just pleasure and joy and fun. It's not for competition of you versus somebody else, or for you to feel bad about yourself because somebody has or does something that you're not doing or wearing. You know,
like we always say, this is not a popularity contest. It's your life.
And yeah, beauty and fashion had become that. And I think that over time, people are recognizing it's a way of expression, you know, and that's the beauty and the art of, you know, it's a makeup artistry, it's the fashion artistry, and that's the love of being able to create. We're all creators.
And also a fashion is in the eye of the beholder, and beauty too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so and that's the joy of it. It's just like, how do you want to feel today, and how do you feel, and what do you want to communicate, and just loving life in the way that you're creating it. And so this is just an extension of you. It's a part of you. It's not to be used as a mask or a shield, or certainly it's still used that way. So little by little, it's kind of like getting that message out there that, people matter, and that, there is a company, there is a brand out there that really starts every decision from a place of love, not from a place of financial gain. And that, we're really doing things in a way that's going to help everybody prosper in a very positive way, not in a way that is debilitating to them or to the earth or to anybody around them.
I love that you have such a strong core values and that you are abiding by them.
Yeah.
But this is also a business.
Mm-hmm.
And you invested money. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to make money out of it. So when did you get to that point to say, okay, I'm able to pay myself? Am I able to pay back?
Yeah.
Is working?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't take any loans or anything like that. Luckily, like I said, I was waiting for the time to be right, that I had the runway financially to be able to do this. And that's why I don't stress about, anything. There's never a doubt in my mind that I'm going to be able to make this work. It's already working. There's never a doubt in my mind that I'm on the right path, because when you have a positive attitude and when you believe in yourself, things just flow naturally, and things come to you, opportunities come to you that you may have thought of in the back of your mind. But I'm a very big believer in the law of attraction, and so I believe that if you surround yourself and you fill yourself with positivity and the belief of like, there is no way that I can fail because the universe won't let me fail, then it will happen. I think that what happens is that people start looking at what's right in front of them. They start looking at their bank account, or they start looking at the sales of the day, or they start getting nervous, and then they start getting unsure. And it's very easy to do because they're looking at what they're seeing today. But if you keep your eye on your future, and if you keep your head calm, and you meditate every day, and that there is no way that the universe is going to let you fail unless you stop believing in yourself, that's when businesses crumble, is because they start getting into that vibration of doubt. They start getting into that, oh shoot, let me quick do something and start action, doing things that will be action oriented in order to fix this. And that's the first sign of like, that's a company that won't last very long.
Yeah, I feel like there are so many people that are not looking at the big picture. For example, when you're looking at ads placement, not every day is the same day. There are a lot of things that they happen in your city, in your neighborhood, in your state, and in your country, whatever you're selling, even in the world. So every day is a little different and affects the behavior of your consumers. So you cannot just look at one thing one day. You need to take snapshots of certain time being and compare them. I feel like a lot of businesses are putting out there, but they're not analyzing results and say, hey, what can we do to improve? Are you analyzing your results? And
oh yeah, I think that there's part of it is always like taking these data points and saying, okay, this worked, this didn't work, let's do more of what works, and let's experiment a little bit more with other things too, rather than being knee-jerk reactive in terms of saying, oh my gosh, this competition just did that, now I have to do that, what's my defense plan or what's my offense plan? And I think from that perspective, you tend to lose sight of that bigger picture, that longer vision that you're heading toward. But simultaneously, always keeping that open mind towards inspiration that's a good thing. Like, if you see something and you're like, oh my God, I love that. And, draw from the inspiration, but make it your own. There's no good sense in just copying what somebody else did in the beauty industry. I think that if you can truly make something your own, add your own twist, do your own thing, and, evolve and create things that are new, then that will help to, keep you in a place of continuous creativity and experimentation and positive outcomes.
Totally. And yeah, that's something you brought up, something very important that is not about the competition. It's not about what the others are doing. It's about what you are doing.
Mm-hmm. Truly.
And that's really, really important to make sure that that people know what you are about, and try to convey that message in every single way that you can.
Exactly. And so, like, for example, I remember when, early on, I was thinking to myself, rather than just remaining a digital brand, there's always this notion of, well, what about additional distribution? And there's always a question of, are you ready for that? Is that something that you can sustain? But, in looking at, various places, you get a lot of great feedback, and you also get some that is just kind of like, thank you for your feedback, and I'm going to dismiss it because it doesn't pertain to me. And you get the ones that only see your products as like CBD products, and they're like, oh, you know what, that that's old news. Already got like a ton of CBD products, and I don't have space on, but then, when they realize that, this is a brand that is really fundamentally about values, not just about a single ingredient or just about product. It's really about a philosophy of, better quality living and of love and the journey of self-exploration. And these are ways to do it. It's like, helping you with lifestyle products that help, kind of round out how you're going to live and how you're going to find your calm, and how different rituals for creating just like this quiet space so that you can be more sane, as it were. That then they get it. They're like, oh, but this is so much more. It's about inclusivity. It's about beauty for all. It's about human kindness. It's about the importance of of self. And so that's when taking at face value, I think that that's what a lot of people tend to do. But when you peel back the onion and you realize that you've got a strong core, and that's what I would encourage a lot of, new entrepreneurs that are thinking about, different brands to do, is like, what is truly at the core, and can you own that? And how are you going to continue evolving that and manifesting that for others to see in a very unique and ownable way?
I love your journey, and I love all the information that you are giving here and you're sharing with us. Thank you so much for
Welcome.
all this. But I just want to ask one more piece of sharing.
Sure.
That is that mistake that you made, but you learned so much from it.
I would probably say that one mistake that I made, it's funny because I never think of mistakes as mistakes, because they're always, to your point, opportunities to learn from, for sure.
But for sure was a situation where I said, oh my God, how are we going to come up with that? I have to fix it now. And others can learn from it.
Yeah, I think I think everybody, when everything shut down in 2020, call it March. Like, gosh, we're coming across 2 years. Isn't it insane? 2 years after the first shutdown. Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, here I am about to launch. What do I do? I had a whole plan to like introduce everything in April, and it was March. And so then, I realized that, okay, this is not the time when, the world is going through a crisis and people are dying. And I mean, this is not the time for self-aggrandizement or for launching and for coming out with products. To me, I felt like it was kind of interesting. And a lot of the different Zoom calls that was on, for the beauty industry at the time, when they finally figured out how to use Zoom, and that was pretty much, I think, when everybody started to go virtual, right? But it was like, how can we capitalize on this crisis? And to me, that was just awful. It was awful to think, it's like, how can we capitalize on this pandemic? And so everybody started coming out with hand sanitizers and all of that. And I was like, the last thing that I wanted to do was to, feed or kind of monetize off of people's pain and off of a crisis. And so I decided to instead, I hate the word pivot because it's so overused, but I decided to put things on hold. And rather than launch, was that a mistake? To me, like I said, I don't think that there's really any mistakes or anything. That everything happens for a reason. And so it gave me the opportunity to start writing a book. And so, my whole, I had this, quiet space of months where I just said, you know what, I'm going to put my, business on hold. And I really want to put down like this whole philosophy about beauty from within and what it could mean for other people, and use this time as wisely as I can. And so that's what I did. I started writing a book. It's still in process right now, which is exciting.
Well,
2 years later.
the moral here is that sometimes it's okay to take a step back.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I did as a marketer. I did in also when everyone was crazy trying to pivot into digital. I was, you know what, guys, this is overdo it. Let's take a step back. Let's relax for a minute. Let's see what's going on, and then we act.
Yeah. I think that it's wise to know when you're ready for something, and knowing when it feels rushed. Because and sometimes people, people can work really well under pressure, and they thrive on it. But everybody is different, and so watching what somebody else does again may not be the best for you or for me. And you see a lot of people just burning out, and recognizing, what, I got to tap out. I've got to step away from this. I need some time to like preserve my mental health. I've been putting everybody else first aside from me. And now it's time for me to focus on me. And they're realizing that is okay.
This is so great. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking this time and having coffee with me today.
All right. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.